Robins. Ready for a read aloud? Straight from my own home. Pretty weird, right? Okay, so where we left off, a little bit of things changed. Some time passed, so Wart is now a little bit older, Kay is older, but Merlin is not older. If you remember, he lives his life backwards. So now Merlin is getting a little bit younger. And in the previous section, they were talking a little bit about just the town in general and how people in the town have been starting to change. So we'll pick up there. Wart sat in the enormous firelight and looked about him with pleasure. He looked upon the long spits which he had often turned while he was smaller, sitting behind an old straw target soaked in water, so that he would not be roasted himself, and upon the ladles and spoons whose handles could be measured in yards, with which he had been accustomed to baste the meat. He watched with water in his mouth the arrangements for the evening meal, a boar's head with a lemon in its jaws, and split almond whiskers which would be served with the fanfare of trumpets, a kind of pork pie with sour apple juice, peppered custard, and several birds' legs or spiced leaves sticking out of the top to show what was in it, and a most luscious-looking fermentary. He said to himself with a sigh, "It is not so bad being a servant after all." "Still sighing?" asked Merlin, who had turned up from somewhere. "As you were that day when you went to watch King Pelinor's joust?" "Oh, no," said the Wart. "Or rather, oh, yes, and for the same reason. But I don't really mind. I'm sure I'll make a better squire than old Kay would. Look at the saffron going into that fermente. It just matches the firelight on the hams in the chimney." "It is lovely," said the magician. "Only fools want to be great." "Kay won't tell me," said the Wart. "What happens when you're made a knight? He says it's too sacred. What does happen?" "Oh, only a lot of fuss. You'll have to undress him and put him into a bath hung with rich hangings, and then 2 experienced knights will turn up. Probably Sir Ector will get hold of old Grumnor and King Pellinor, and then they'll both sit on the edge of the bath and give him a long lecture about the ideals of chivalry such as they are. When they have done, they'll pour some of the bath water over him and sign him with a cross, and then you'll have to conduct him into a clean bed to get dry. Then you dress him up as a hermit and take him off to the chapel. There he stays awake all night, watching his armor and saying prayers. People say it's lonely and terrible for him in this vigil, but it's not all that lonely really, because there's the vicar and the man who sees to the candles, and an armed guard, and probably as well as his esquire will have to sit up with him out at the same time. In the morning, you lead him off to bed to have a good sleep. As soon as he has confessed and heard mass and offered a candle with a piece of money stuck into it as near as the lighted end as possible, and then, when all are rested, you dress him up again in his very best clothes for dinner. Before you lead him into the hall, with his spurs and sword all ready, and King Pellinor puts on the first spur, and Sir Grumnor puts on the second, and then Sir Ector girds the sword and kisses him and smacks him on the shoulder and says, 'Be thou a good knight.' Is that all?" "No. You go to the chapel again, then, and Kay offers his sword to the vicar, and the vicar gives it back to him. And after that, our good cook over there meets him at the door and claims he spurs as a reward and says, 'I shall keep these spurs for you, and if at any time you don't behave as a true knight should do, why, I shall pop 'em in the soup.'" "That is the end?" "Yes, except for the dinner." "If I were made to be a knight," said the Wart, starting dreamily into the fire, "I should insist on doing my vigil by myself, as Hob does with his hawks. And I should pray to God to let me encounter all the evil in the world my own person, so that if I conquered, there would be none left, and if I were defeated, I would be the one to suffer for it." "That would be extremely presumptuous of you," said Merlin. "And if you were to be conquered, and you would suffer for it?" "I shouldn't mind." "Wouldn't you? Wait till it happens and see." "Why do people not think when they're grown up, as I do when I am young?" "Oh dear," said Merlin. "You're making me feel confused. Suppose you wait till you're grown up and know the reason." "I don't think that is an answer at all," replied the Wart justly. Merlin wrung his hands. Well, anyway, he said, suppose I did not let you stand against all the evil in the world. I could ask, said the wart. You could ask, repeated Merlin. He thrust the end of his beard into his mouth and stared tragically at the fire and began to munch it fiercely. The day for the ceremony drew near. The invitations to King Pellinore and Sir Grumore were sent out, and the wart withdrew himself more and more into the kitchen. Come on, Wart, old boy, said Sir Ector ruefully. I don't think that you would take it so bad it doesn't become you to do this sulking. I'm not sulking, said the wart. I don't mind a bit, and I'm very glad that Kay is going to be a knight. Please don't think I'm sulking. Ah, you are a good boy, said Sir Ector. I know you're not sulking, really, but do cheer up. Kay isn't such a bad stick, you know, in his way. Kay is a splendid chap, said the wart. Only I was not happy because he did not seem to want to go hawking or anything with me any more. It is his youthfulness, said Sir Ector. It will all clear up. I'm sure it will, said the wart. It is only that he does not want me to go with him just at the moment, and so, of course, I don't go. But I will go, added the wart. As soon as he commands me, I will do exactly what he says. Honestly, I think Kay is a good person, and I was not sulking a bit. You have a glass of this canary, said Sir Ector, and go see if old Merlin can't cheer you up. Sir Ector has given me a glass of the canary, said Wart, and sent me to see you if you can't cheer me up. Sir Ector, said Merlin, is a wise man. Well, said the wart, what about it? The best thing for being said, replied Merlin, beginning to puff and blow, is to learn something. That is the only thing that never fails. You may grow old and trembling in your anatomies. You may lie awake listening to the disorder of your veins. You may miss your only love. You may see the world about you devastated by the evil of lunatics, or know your honor trampled in the sewers of baser minds. There is only one thing for it then, to learn. Learn why the world wags and what wags it. That is the only thing which the mind can never exhaust, never alienate, never be tortured by, never fear or distrust, and never dream of regretting. Learning is the thing for you. Look at what a lot of things there are to learn. Pure silence, the only purity there is. You can learn astronomy in a lifetime, natural history in 3, literature in 6. And then, after you have exhausted 1,000,000 lifetimes in biology and medicine and theoreticism and geography and history and economics, why, you can start to make a cartwheel out of the appropriate wood or spend 50 years learning to learn to beat your adversary at fencing. And after that, you can start again on mathematics, until it is time to learn to plow. Apart from all these things, said the wart, what do you suggest for me just now? Let me see, said the magician, considering. Why, we've had a short 6 years of this, and in that time I think I'm right in saying that you have been many kinds of animal, vegetable, mineral, etc. Many things in earth, air, fire, and water. I don't know much, said the wart, about the animals in earth.